All right, welcome back to Crossover Thursday, which is presented by PrizePicks. Remember to go to prizepicks.com/lockedonnfl and use code all lowercase lockedonnfl to win $50 instantly when you play $5. All right, Joe. So on the line, the three most important keys for the Bills to win this one.
I think number one is heat up Joe Flacco. You know, this is a quarterback that, like you mentioned, has played 17 years. He's seen every defense in the world. He's seen every disguise. You got to pressure him, and I think you got to try to take advantage of some younger players on that Colts offensive line. You have a lot of depth on your defensive line if you're the Bills. I think there's been times this year I feel like the Bills' pass rush has been pretty quiet, and I don't think that can be the case this week. I think they have to get after Joe Flacco, who obviously is limited in terms of mobility, and so you want to take advantage of that and really heat him up and not give him time to just use his experience and, slice up your zone defense. So that's number one for me. Number two is don't let Jonathan Taylor kill you. The Bills make their choices with how they choose to defend the run. And this is probably a matchup where I would dare Joe Flacco to beat you throwing the football. And I'm not saying that you load up with 8-man boxes or anything like that, but I would be willing to roll down a safety. I'd be willing to run blitz. I'd be willing to do some gap exchanges to try to get some negative plays because I'm sure the Colts want to see it, but nobody wants to see Jonathan Taylor go off like he did last time and certainly how he's capable of performing. And so because of I don't not respect the Colts receivers. I just feel like the Bills do have good matchups with Christian Benford and Rasul Douglas and Taron Johnson. So if you wanted to play a little man coverage, you want to play a little one high, middle of the field, close, single high safety type stuff to help your run fits, do it, because I feel like you can take your chances more with some of the coverage options you have. And so this isn't a game to let Jonathan Taylor go off. I think that would be a mistake. And then number three, I think it's probably a good idea for the Bills to have a pass-aggressive game plan on offense. I have a lot of respect for the Colts front on defense, two great defensive tackles and Buckner and Stewart. And you mentioned they're humming right now. I think the second level is really good. They've been inserting this Grant Stewart a little bit, giving them some sparks as a extra player sometimes when they want to go with some more base traditional looks. And so I would be willing to kind of take your chances. I don't know if Keon Coleman's going to go, but they should get Amari Cooper this week. Khalil Shakir is a very good slot receiver, yards after catch. Dalton Kincaid is a tight end option. I think you use your backs out of the backfield. The Bills have had a lot of success throwing the ball to James Cook and Ray Davis. I think you want to come out pass aggressive, a little bit like they did against Seattle, to allow yourself to kind of get that lead and maybe force the Colts to not be two-dimensional on offense and really make it a Joe Flacco game throwing the ball against your secondary. And so I think I'd come out trying to score points through the air and really kind of close the game out in the second half, running it if you can.
No, I think that putting heat on Flacco is legit. Last week against the Vikings, they didn't get to him until the final drive of the game. It's like Flores said, we're not messing with this anymore. And then boom, 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 3 sacks on the final drive after not having any. So, I mean, that's legit. I mean, Joe can't really escape all that. But for the Colts side of it, I agree. Jonathan Taylor is kind of the linchpin of this thing. Get him established early and try and ride him throughout the game. The game that still haunts you guys, I think that was a once in a lifetime type of thing. Like, that was an enormous game, but I think he's still capable of those 150-yard games, and it doesn't even have to be that. Just use him consistently throughout the game. They just have these long stretches where they abandon using him, and there's not much explanation afterward other than we like what Trey Sermon offers us in this instance and things like that. It's like, all right, Trey Sermon's nice, but he's not Jonathan Taylor. So ride Jonathan throughout the game as long as he's productive and things are working there. And my next point to that, if that is working, allow that to create play action opportunities for you with Joe Flacco. Obviously, this appears like it's going to become a more traditional offense. So, if you're under center and, you can get the play fake to Jonathan and crank back and go to Alec Pierce downfield. I think there's ways for this to work. They also like Alec Pierce on the deep crossers as well. So not everything has to be this big, go route for him, but just try and establish the run game and allow it to create play action opportunities for you. And then last, obviously this is easier said than done because Buffalo's offense is doing a lot of things right now. Try to affect them in some way that's been uncharacteristic. They're not giving up sacks. Obviously, Josh Allen, the least sacked quarterback right now. and they're not turning it over either. So either get a couple turnovers on them, or get to Josh Allen and make it to where he's not comfortable. Obviously, it seems like the defensive line is probably the best way to do that. But the Colts, they rank up there in takeaways as well. So I think if you can get a little bit of pressure on Josh, maybe make him make some errant throws or just, some questionable decisions, what have you, you could probably force them into uncharacteristic mistakes that they just haven't really been making this year and that have allowed them to win a lot of games.
Yeah, I think the organic pass rush opportunities for the Colts should be interesting. The Bills are really good pass blocking team. Like you mentioned, Josh Allen's the least sacked quarterback in the NFL. But I think that the blend of traits that the Colts defensive line has, a lot of length, a lot of size, a lot of athleticism, you go ahead and rush 4. And I feel like you should be able to cage rush a little bit here and really kind of lock in Josh in the pocket. And, you'll be able to drop 7 and give yourself some chances, if Josh will put it in harm's way. But I think that their organic pass rush should or could be challenging. I don't think the Bills have played this complete of a front. They played teams with good defensive tackles, but really didn't have the edge. Teams with good edge rushers, but not really the interior. This is a team that I feel like can put 4 across, that has a lot of talent and juice to really get after you. So I think it'll be a unique matchup in terms of how the Colts can win with their organic pass rush against the Bills, who have been a very good pass pro team.
And, the Colts may not be using Anthony Richardson on the field, but, I think he's simulating a little bit of Josh Allen this week. So that's something that not every opponent has. So, that's a use they could get out of Anthony this week. I just hope they wisely account for his legs, because that, he's one of those unicorns that, okay, he's a really good passer, but what makes him Josh Allen is his ability to use his legs as well. And I don't feel like the Colts have always been super heady of that situation. They have allowed some guys who can move around with their legs to do so freely. So I'm just really hoping the Colts factor that into the game plan a little bit.